Welcome back. Today we're exploring a chilling case that shook the south side suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia in 2017. Late that December, as the winter winds grow restless and the neighborhood's holiday lights flicker in the cold darkness, a brutal crime unfolds, leaving behind a haunting trail of recordings, unanswered questions, and shattered families. It all begins when police officers respond to a frantic call shortly after midnight on December 29, 2017. They arrive at a small apartment complex tucked away behind a row of overgrown shrubs, where the sound of distant sirens slices through the otherwise silent night. Inside one modest unit, they discover a young man with multiple gunshot wounds, the victim of a deadly attack. As the first responders move closer, their boots crunch on broken glass, and the smell of burnt gunpowder lingers in the stale air. They find a phone still recording, capturing the last moments of a life, and a horrifying confession caught on camera. The victim is Rahim Grant, a rising local rapper whose talent has begun to turn heads in underground music circles. He is young, ambitious, and well-liked, even if not widely known yet. Lying on that apartment floor, his blood staining the cheap carpet, he leaves behind an unfinished legacy, a daughter who will never see him again, and countless friends who must now grapple with a senseless tragedy. On the other side of this violent equation stands Ciera Harp, Rahim's ex-girlfriend and the mother of his child. She is found nearby, distraught and shaken, yet disturbingly calm when the camera's lens stills on her face. Law enforcement officers, bewildered by what they witness in the phone's recording, begin piecing together what leads to this fatal confrontation. Whispers drift through the neighborhood, and local media soon swarms with speculation. Everyone wants to know what pushes Ciera Harp, a seemingly ordinary young woman, to commit such a shocking act. In the days and weeks to come, as investigators piece together the events that culminate in this unspeakable violence, the community braces itself for revelations that will challenge their understanding of love, loyalty, and the destructive power of unchecked anger. The perpetrator, Ciera Harp, is 29 years old at the time of the murder. She is of average height, about 5'5", with a slender build that belies the force of aggression that she will one day unleash. Her features are delicate, warm brown eyes, a narrow nose, full lips, and hair that she frequently changes in style, sometimes wearing it pressed straight, sometimes in loose curls. On the surface, her appearance is unremarkable, the kind of face you might pass on the sidewalk without much notice. But those who know her well mention a perpetual tension in her posture, as if she is always preparing for something to go wrong. Ciera grows up in a household plagued by instability. Born in a working-class family just south of Atlanta's downtown, she is the third child of 5 siblings. Her father leaves when she is 6, leaving her mother to struggle with low-paid jobs and a series of short-term boyfriends. Witnessing regular arguments over finances and infidelity, Ciera learns early on that relationships often rest on shaky foundations. Growing up, she attends local public schools but never truly excels academically. She performs at an average level, often daydreaming through class, disconnected. By the time she reaches high school, her attendance is erratic, and she eventually drops out at 17. Instead of pursuing a traditional career path, she holds a series of low-wage jobs: cashier at a dollar store, a hostess at a local restaurant, receptionist at a nail salon, never settling into anything long-term. In social settings, Ciera can be friendly and even charismatic at first. She smiles warmly, laughs easily, and can talk casually about pop culture or the latest celebrity gossip. Yet, close friends remember her mood shifts. At times, she grows sullen and withdrawn, with little warning, harboring resentments and jealousy that flare up unexpectedly. Rumors swirl that she struggles with depression and anxiety, though she never formally seeks psychological help. In her early 20s, she briefly dates an older man who reportedly introduces her to prescription painkillers. Although never officially diagnosed, there is speculation that Ciera wrestles with substance abuse. By her mid-20s, she cycles through relationships, most of them brief and troubled. One friend comments that Ciera seems clingy, prone to intense infatuations that turn sour when expectations are not met. Financially, she struggles, living paycheck to paycheck, borrowing small amounts from friends, and occasionally relying on her family for rent help, she never quite achieves stability. She dreams of a better life, maybe owning a small boutique or going back to school for a cosmetology license, but never commits to the path such dreams require. Ciera's hobbies seem harmless enough. She enjoys doing hair, listening to music, occasionally posting small video clips of herself singing online. But she also harbors darker interests. She frequently watches true crime documentaries, sometimes musing about what causes people to break. While this in itself is not unusual, acquaintances recall that she lingers on details others find disturbing. She really strives not to become the typical person who finds disturbing the environment and troubled times. There are early warning signs that something simmers under the surface. Small episodes of anger, slamming doors, texting friends late at night complaining about an ex who outs her respect, hinting at paranoid suspicions that people are out to use her, her last relationship before Rahim ends badly, with accusations of cheating on both sides and a restraining order that rumor has it is never officially enforced. In short, Ciera Harp is a complex figure, a young woman shaped by instability, craving love and validation, prone to jealousy and fearful of abandonment. By the time she meets Rahim, her life is at a standstill. No stable career, no firm family support, and no sense of secure identity. Into this void steps a man with ambition, talent, and a gentle smile. The stage is set for disaster. Rahim Grant, by contrast, is a man on the verge of transforming his passion into success. He is 29 years old, a lean and athletic figure with dark eyes that light up when discussing music. Born and raised in the same broader Atlanta community, Rahim grows up in a family that emphasizes perseverance and self-expression. He discovers rap music as a teenager, writing down verses in a dog-eared notebook while listening to local hip-hop stations. He hones his skills at impromptu rap battles in school courtyards and community centers. While he never attains mainstream fame, he begins making a name for himself in underground circles, performing at small clubs, recording tracks in makeshift studios, and gradually developing a modest following. Rahim's personal life is not without hardship. He loses a close friend to street violence at 19, and that trauma shapes his perspective. He vows to uplift his community through music rather than fall prey to the cycle of violence. He maintains close ties with his mother, who supports his dream even when money is tight. She recalls that Rahim wants to provide for his family, buy a modest home, and set up a small business, perhaps a recording label, for local talent. When he first meets Ciera, he is charmed by her laughter and the way she seems genuinely interested in his music. To his family, Rahim is a gentle soul, easily trusting, sometimes to a fault. He never marries, but he has a series of short relationships. In late 2016, he reconnects with Ciera, who he had known casually through mutual friends. They begin dating. Soon, they have a daughter together. Rahim, determined to do right by his child, tries to maintain a cordial relationship with Ciera, even when things grow tense. Rahim's daily routine before the tragedy is fairly straightforward. He works odd jobs to pay the bills, occasionally driving for a rideshare service, sometimes helping at a recording studio, and spends evenings honing his music, writing lyrics, and practicing flow in his small, sparse apartment. On weekends, he visits his mother and siblings, cherishes time with his daughter, and occasionally hangs out with a tight-knit group of friends. Many speak of his kindness and optimism. He is the type of person who believes that hard work and perseverance can break the cycle of poverty and violence. That belief, tragically, will not protect him from what unfolds. In December 2017, the South Side neighborhoods of Atlanta sit in a state of restless change. Gentrification creeps in. Older buildings are being torn down or renovated, and new businesses appear, bringing fresh opportunities and also rising rents. The air on the night of December 29 is cold, unusually biting for Georgia. Clouds obscure the moon and a light drizzle falls against the bare trees. Streetlights cast long shadows over cracked pavement. The local community, long accustomed to hardship and the occasional violent outburst, has been relatively calm that year. Police reports indicate a slight drop in violent crime compared to the previous fall, and residents feel cautiously optimistic that the new community center set to open in January might create better opportunities for local youth. Before tragedy strikes, the area around the apartment complex where Rahim lives feels unremarkable. It is a cluster of low-rise buildings with faded paint, a neglected parking lot full of potholes, and a patch of grass that turns muddy when it rains. One landmark stands out: an old convenience store about a block away, where neighbors sometimes gather outside to chat. Just down the street is a battered playground with one swing missing, a silent testament to budget cuts and neglect. Despite the worn exterior, the community tries to maintain a sense of normalcy. Neighbors greet one another, families decorate their doors for the holidays, and children's laughter occasionally echoes through the breezeways. That December, the city is in a reflective mood. Media discussions center on rising rents, debates about police oversight, and efforts to support local artists. Rahim, ever in tune with these cultural shifts, hopes that his music might capture the spirit of resilience that defines many families here. In such an environment, a brutal murder stands out like a jagged tear in the fabric of daily life. It is in this setting that Rahim and Ciera's relationship forms and eventually collapses. They first meet years earlier at a local music event. Rahim is performing at a small open mic night, and Ciera wanders in with a friend. She is intrigued by his stage presence, his confident delivery. They do not talk much that night, just a brief, "Hey, nice set." Yet the memory lingers. Months later, they cross paths again at a friend's birthday party. They strike up a conversation about music, about the challenges of making it in a tough industry, and the grind of low-paid jobs. Rahim notices that Ciera laughs a bit too loudly at his jokes, and watches him with a fervent intensity. She, in turn, thinks he's charming, gentle, and full of dreams that she envies. In the early days, their interactions feel hopeful. Rahim picks her up after her shifts, and they share late-night meals at fast food spots, making each other laugh over fries and milkshakes. Ciera seems impressed by his dedication to his music, and Rahim appreciates her attention. As the months roll on, they form a relationship that at first looks promising. He records songs and shows them to her, seeking approval. She listens intently, giving compliments. Sometimes, though, she grows quiet and critical, questioning why he isn't making more money yet. Rahim brushes off these comments, assuming it's just stress talking. Over time, cracks appear. Rahim's friends notice that when he's out with them, Ciera calls constantly, demanding to know where he is. He dismisses it as concern or jealousy, but believes it's manageable. Ciera's neediness intensifies when she discovers she is pregnant. Rahim tries to step up, but he also feels pressure mounting. Friends recall that by the time their daughter is born, Ciera's temper flares more often. She snaps at him over small things: why he didn't answer a text within minutes, why he took an extra shift instead of spending time with her. He tries to appease her, buying small gifts he can barely afford, rearranging his schedule to please her. The dynamic between them shifts powerfully after their child's birth. Rahim wants to co-parent peacefully, even as their romantic bond frays. He invites Ciera to stay over more often so she can be close to the baby. But arguments spark late at night. She accuses him of seeing other women. He denies it. She threatens to leave with the baby if he doesn't give her more attention. He grows tired, withdrawn, focusing on his music as a sanctuary. In this tension-filled environment, warning signs emerge. Rahim's sister once suggests he talk to someone, maybe a counselor, but he shrugs it off, embarrassed. Friends hint that something feels off about Ciera. Her eyes narrow into suspicion too easily. She grows silent and furious at the slightest provocation. Yet no one steps in with force. Everyone hopes they can figure it out on their own. As 2017 rolls on, their disagreements escalate. On one occasion, a neighbor overhears raised voices late at night. "I give you everything, and you treat me like nobody," Ciera screams. Rahim mumbles a response, too low to overhear, and then there's the sound of a door slamming. Another time, a friend reports seeing bruises on Rahim's arm, and asking him if everything's okay. He dismisses it as an accident. If only someone had intervened more decisively. If only he had known how dangerous this would become. A series of triggers accelerate the final crisis. The first comes when Rahim, trying to book a gig at a local club, cancels a date night with Ciera. She feels slighted, convinced he's putting his career, or possibly another woman, ahead of her. The second involves money. Rahim is short on cash and can't lend Ciera the amount she wants for a new phone. She accuses him of being selfish. The tension grows daily. Rahim, sensing danger, tries to spend more time away from the apartment when possible, but he must return for his daughter's sake. Each return feels heavier, each conversation more charged. By mid-December, Ciera's mood swings become more pronounced. She leaves angry voicemails, threatens to harm herself, then later claims she was just frustrated. Rahim, uncertain what to believe, grows fearful. He confides in a friend that he worries about leaving his daughter alone with Ciera. He contemplates seeking custody, but the legal process seems daunting. He's not sure what evidence he would need to prove instability. He hopes they can talk it out, find a middle ground for their child. Others grow concerned. Rahim's mother urges him to seek help, maybe talk to a mediator or a pastor. He nods but doesn't follow through. There are near-miss incidents. A week before the shooting, neighbors swear they hear something that sounds like a gunshot at night, though no evidence of gunfire is found. Ciera accuses Rahim of trying to walk out on his family, making vague threats about how he'll regret it. Still, no one thinks she would actually commit violence. It's all talk, right? As Christmas approaches, the mood darkens. Their daughter is with Ciera's relatives for a holiday gathering, so Ciera and Rahim are alone more often. Rahim tries to keep his distance, staying at a friend's place a couple of nights, but Ciera calls incessantly, leaving messages that swing between sorrow and rage. At one point, she tearfully pleads, "I can't do this alone, Rahim." The next message a few hours later is colder. "You better not be messing around. You don't want to see what happens if you lie to me." There's a sense now of a countdown. Those around them recall seeing small changes in Ciera's demeanor. She appears thinner, more hollow-eyed. Some suspect drug use again. She paces outside the apartment building, muttering under her breath. She sends Rahim texts that grow more irrational. "The truth will come out. You think you can leave me and not pay the price?" He tries to calm her, assuring her he's focused on their daughter's future. But each attempt only adds fuel to her paranoia. On December 28th, the night before the murder, Rahim stops by to talk with Ciera. A cold drizzle patters on the apartment's metal stairs. He hopes to reason with her, to find a compromise. Neighbors say they see him arrive around 10 p.m., shoulders hunched against the cold. Tension etched across his face. He carries a small wrapped gift for the baby's belated Christmas, just a plush teddy bear he saved up to buy. Witnesses recall that the building's hallway smells of stale smoke and fried food. Nothing remarkable suggests the horror about to unfold. But behind that apartment door, a final confrontation is brewing. It happens shortly after midnight on December 29, 2017. Outside, the temperature hovers near freezing. The sky is ink black. Inside the apartment's cramped living room, Rahim and Ciera argue. The conversation begins quietly, a low murmur of frustration. Rahim tries to de-escalate, offering to discuss a parenting schedule. Ciera accuses him of betrayal. At 12:37 a.m., as evidenced by the phone's timestamp, Rahim sets his phone to record, a precautionary measure, perhaps sensing danger. He positions it on a nearby table, the camera angle capturing part of the living room, the window behind them, and the two blurred silhouettes as they face off. Ciera storms into the bedroom and returns with a handgun. Rain ticks lightly against the window as tension climbs to a harrowing peak. Rahim pleads with her, "Come on, think about our daughter." Ciera's voice shakes. "You think you can leave me? After everything?" Her hand trembles. The smell of anxiety, sweat, and stale cigarette smoke fills the air. The phone, still recording, picks up every word, every ragged breath. Suddenly, she fires. The popping sound is deafening in the confined space. Rahim stumbles backward, crying out in pain. Another shot. He begs for his life. She fires again, and again, and again. Each shot echoes in the stillness, a grim punctuation marking the end of a life. Rahim collapses onto the floor, blood spreading beneath him. He gasps for air, tries to speak, but words fail. Ciera paces, the adrenaline coursing through her veins, muttering something incoherent. The phone's camera still rolls. Then, in a chilling turn, Ciera seems to address the camera itself. She babbles about lies, about not letting him leave. Her voice cracks as she delivers what sounds like a twisted justification. She confesses on camera, sealing her own fate, as if compelled by some dark need to let the world know what she has done. When the first police officers arrive, they find the door ajar, the lights still on. The smell of gunpowder mingles with the metallic tang of blood. An officer kneels by Rahim, checks for a pulse, but it's too late. Another officer apprehends Ciera, who stands in the kitchen, tears on her cheeks, the gun resting on the countertop. The phone lies on the floor, its screen cracked, but still recording. The scene is chaotic yet eerily quiet. Outside, neighbors gather, whispering. A siren wails in the distance. Within minutes, backup arrives. Yellow crime scene tape stretches across the doorframe, and detectives step gingerly into the apartment, flashlights cutting through the gloom. Their eyes are gradually turned toward the back door. A light whip steps from within. The evidence is straightforward. The gun is registered to Ciera's late father, never reported stolen. The phone's video provides a harrowing record of the murder. Shell casings scatter across the living room floor. Bloodstains map Rahim's final desperate struggle. In the following hours, police question neighbors who heard the shots. They locate family members who confirm the turbulent relationship between Ciera and Rahim. Almost immediately, the detectives consider Ciera their prime suspect. She makes no attempt to flee, no elaborate alibi. She remains at the station, alternating between sobs and silence. The investigation proceeds methodically. Detectives work through the night, logging evidence, photographing the crime scene from multiple angles. The flashes of the camera illuminate the dingy apartment, capturing the discarded teddy bear on a chair, the broken window latch, the overturned coffee table. The department's forensic team collects the gun, the phone, DNA samples, and fingerprints. They review text messages and social media posts between the two, trying to construct a comprehensive timeline of events leading up to the murder. In the following days, witnesses come forward. Friends of Rahim describe how he confides in them about Ciera's erratic behavior. Neighbors recall shouting and slammed doors. One person claims to have seen Ciera buying ammunition weeks earlier, though this remains unverified. The police also learn of Ciera's troubled past, her unstable upbringing, her history of volatile breakups. They consult a psychologist, who provides insight into the mind of someone who might commit a crime of this nature. The psychologist explains that a combination of jealousy, fear of abandonment, possible untreated mental illness, and substance abuse can push an individual to extreme acts of violence. Experts also analyze the footage from the phone. Frame by frame, they note Ciera's body language, the angle of the shots, the chilling calm that overcomes her after the initial burst of violence. The timestamps on the video, text messages, and call logs help investigators establish that Rahim arrives that night attempting to make peace, not provoke a confrontation. A search warrant on Ciera's home and belongings yield more clues. They find scattered handwritten notes expressing anger at Rahim, fantasies of revenge. They uncover old journals where she writes about feeling abandoned by everyone she cares about. Police also question her ex-boyfriend, who describes a pattern of manipulative behavior. All of this confirms that the crime was not a spontaneous explosion, but rather the result of simmering resentment, fear, and psychological unraveling. The district attorney wastes no time. Ciera Harp is arrested and charged with murder. Her first court appearance takes place days later. She stands before a judge, her face drawn, eyes puffy from crying. The media attention escalates. Local news stations run headlines. Local rapper murdered. Ex-girlfriend confesses on camera. A well-known true crime program picks up the story, featuring commentators who analyze the case, the footage, and the society context. The community is shocked but not entirely surprised. Domestic violence and troubled relationships often end tragically. Still, the brutality and the recorded confession intensify public outrage. By the time the trial begins, several months later, public interest has grown. True crime blogs and YouTube channels discuss the case at length. Some highlight the systemic failures. Why did no one intervene? Why did Rahim feel he couldn't ask for help? Why did Ciera never receive proper mental health care? In court, the prosecution lays out its evidence methodically. They present the video from Rahim's phone. The jury watches, horrified, as they witness a crime unfold in real time. Expert witnesses describe the trajectory of the bullets, matching them to Ciera's position. The prosecution calls Rahim's friends and family to testify about the threats and the turbulent relationship. They introduce text messages where Ciera warns Rahim he'll pay for leaving. The defense attempts to argue diminished capacity, suggesting Ciera's mental health issues and emotional instability affected her state of mind. They claim she acts out of desperation, perhaps fearing Rahim would take their daughter away. But the overwhelming evidence, a literal filmed confession, makes the defense's job nearly impossible. When the verdict is read, the courtroom holds its breath. Guilty of murder. The judge sentences Ciera Harp to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She stands, trembling, tears rolling down her cheeks. There is no dramatic outburst, no final plea. Just silence, broken by the sobs of family members. The media covers the sentencing extensively, analyzing every angle. Some question the harsh sentence, but most observers believe justice is served. Rahim's family, though devastated, finds a measure of closure in seeing Ciera held accountable. In the aftermath, Rahim's loved ones struggle with their loss. His mother organizes a memorial service at a local community center he once supported. Friends gather to remember his kindness, his musical talent, and the future stolen from him. The community, shaken by the crime, begins to reevaluate how it perceives domestic disputes and the early warning signs of violence. Local nonprofits start offering more resources for those trapped in toxic relationships, and the police department announces a new initiative focusing on domestic violence prevention. The media's interest fades with time, but the case leaves a lasting imprint. Debates ensue on social media and local radio stations about the intersection of mental health, gun access, and relationship abuse. Some argue for stricter gun control laws or mandatory therapy sessions when warning signs appear. Others emphasize education, teaching young people about healthy relationships, conflict resolution, and seeking help before violence erupts. Rahim's music sees a posthumous spike in online listens. Fans leave comments on his videos, mourning the loss of a talent never fully realized. Some of his old tracks become anthems of resilience and cautionary tales about love turned toxic. His daughter, now growing up without a father, becomes a focal point of the family's healing. They promise to keep his memory alive, sharing stories about his passion and generosity. Legislators notice the public outcry and consider modest reforms. A new bill passes through local government, funding community outreach programs and low-cost counseling for those in precarious domestic situations. A few media outlets host roundtable discussions with psychologists, survivors of domestic violence, and activists. The legacy of the case is its contribution to ongoing conversations about love, control, and the warning signs we often ignore. Years later, people remember the story of Ciera Harp and Rahim Grant as a grim reminder that violence can grow in the quiet corners of everyday life. It teaches that behind every shocking crime lie countless missed opportunities for intervention. Nicholas Graskell, Immersion. The legacy lingers not just in court records and crime documentaries, but in the subtle shifts of community attitude. Neighbors more willing to check in when something seems amiss, friends more likely to encourage counseling, and families more alert to signs of mental distress. As we reflect on this tragic case, we must ask ourselves what lessons we can draw. It reminds us that people carry scars unseen, that relationships can turn lethal if warning signs go unheeded, and that a single moment of unchecked rage can destroy multiple lives. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories. Tell us what you think in the comments. Are there other cases that highlight these tragic dynamics? Feel free to share your thoughts, experiences, or suggestions for future stories. The discussion does not end here. It continues with each of us, in our communities, in our vigilance, and in the compassion we show one another.